Hey, it's November, and if you clicked on this, thank you, because I know I'm really behind on this. But I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is a review of Don't Worry, Darling. I waited until I could be certain that I was watching this with audio description because I'm a blind film critic, so I watched this on HBo MAX with audio description. This film came out in September, and it's November. So I love these windows we have now. I love that I do not have to wait very long for a film. I don't need day and date, but hey, like these 45-day windows or whatever it is that we got, I'm down for it. Whatever it is. So, especially for a film like this that didn't really catch a fire, this is Olivia Wilde's controversial release. It's controversial for like many reasons. It's controversial because out there when it was trying to hit the festival circuit, there was some weird thing where they caught Harry Styles spitting on co-star Chris Pine. I don't know. Did he? I don't care. I have no idea. And then there's also the whole Shia LaBeouf scandal, where Shia LaBeouf was originally supposed to be in this film opposite Florence Pugh, playing the husband role. And then it was recast to be Harry Styles after the Shia drama started happening, and the complaints were made against Shia by his ex. Florence didn't feel comfortable doing certain scenes with Shia, so there was a bit of that. But Olivia Wilde was caught claiming that she did this big responsible thing and fired Shia from the film. And Shia, I was smart to record phone calls, I guess. He has a recording of the conversation between he and Olivia, where she's begging him to not quit the film and is saying that, Florence it's not Florence's place and who cares, and she didn't want him to quit the film, but he quit the film. It was his choice. He walked away. So even when all that was happening, he had the presence of mind to know that this was not a situation that he should be in, and he needed to take a break. So, one tiny point for Shia LaBeouf. Also, having seen the film, I think Shia would have been better than Harry Styles. Now, I realize why Shia cannot be in the film, but having seen the role that they're asking Harry Styles to play, I think Shia would have been better. However, that being said, I've seen 2 Harry Styles roles this year. He was better in this than he was in My Policeman. He's much more in tune with the role that he's been given here than he was in My Policeman. So, take that for what you will. But the real winner here is Florence Pugh. Even when the film is off in La La Land, Florence Pugh is fantastic in every scene. It's kind of a shame how good she is in this film and how little Oscar attention this film will get. I wish we could still separate a performance from a film, because there are a lot of actors and actresses that get stuck in films that are not great, and for some reason we don't nominate them. I think Hugh Jackman is going to miss out on a nomination this year from a performance that I understand is really good, because The Son is not very popular. But here, Florence Pugh is great. She plays Alice. She plays a housewife. Harry Styles plays Jack, the husband. They live in this idyllic community called Victory whatever. It's like a pre-planned community, and the husbands all work for this company that's run by Chris Pine, so they all like leave for work every day, and all these wives just sit at home and they do what, like Leave It to Beaver wives kind of stuff. Just cook, clean, whatever, stay at home. And the sometimes they go to dance lessons, which is interesting. There's a dance studio in this that plays a huge part, and I'm going to get to that later, why I brought that up, because it comes into play later. So there are other people in this community which are played by sort of recognizable faces, like Nick Kroll, and Olivia Wilde herself is in this, Gemma Chan. So just a couple people that you'll recognize that float throughout this film. But this film is mostly Florence Pugh with a little sprinkling of Chris Pine and a decent amount of Harry Styles. So, but there's a story where she starts kind of seeing the cracks in this reality. Kind of has that WandaVision vibe where her world slowly starts falling apart. And at the beginning of WandaVision, we weren't really sure what was causing it or what was going on, but you could tell like her world was fake and it was falling apart. And there's a little bit of that here, where Alice starts seeing things that may or may not be there, and she's worried that she's losing her mind. She has a neighbor that kind of lost her mind, so she's worried that she's being like that, and some stuff happens, and I don't want to spoil it, but I guess I would classify this film as like a psychological thriller with some science fiction elements to it. That's probably the best. I don't know that there really is a film comp where I could say, if you liked this, you'll like this, because it has kind of a third act twist that I thought was clever enough. That kind of sets it apart from me being able to directly compare it to something. And also, I don't want to reveal anything by comparing it to the films that, because of how the third act plays out, that it would make sense to compare it to. So you get no film comp from me on this one. You just get Don't Worry, Darling. The film does have some sex in it, which is why I totally understand Florence Pugh not wanting to work with Shia LaBeouf. You know, based on what I heard about all the Shia stuff going down, I don't know that I would want his head between my legs either. I think I'd probably feel really uncomfortable about that. So, that's where this film is at. So, it's not like profound. It's not like this film is not based solely on sex, but it does have some stuff in there. Olivia Wilde made sure it was in there. So it's, it was a good choice. It was a good choice. I get why Harry's here. I'm sure for a lot of women, that's exactly where they would want Harry Styles. So, probably a brilliant casting choice that way. I think that's why they cast him and thought he would bring people in. He is fine in this. His role is supposed to be kind of 1950s husband type of character, very sort of laid back, company man, charming, likable, all that stuff. So he does that really well. He's supportive of his wife. He's a stark contrast to Chris Pine's character, which is supposed to always make you feel uneasy. His Frank is the one that runs the whole thing, and every scene that he shares with Florence Pugh always has some tension to it. And one of the weaknesses of this is that basically every other cast member is extremely underdeveloped. Doesn't even matter if they cast like a recognizable face in this at all. They don't really do anything with them. They're basically just recognizable faces living in a cul-de-sac. They have no characters. They exist simply to just pass Alice in the street or to be a friend to Jack. Like, they're not things. They're sort of like the external characters in WandaVision. You know, like you were there for Wanda and Vision, but not really the other characters. So they didn't really develop them a whole hell of a lot. I mean, they came in and out, but there wasn't a whole lot of story to most of them. Obviously, by the end, there was for one, but I guess you could call that the Chris Pine effect here, would be that if there was a third character that got developed, well, it's Chris Pine here. So, but everybody else sort of in the neighborhood doesn't really have a character. So it's funny that Olivia Wilde directed herself to a role where she doesn't really do much. It's just an interesting thought to have, but that's what this is. So I thought it was fine. There's it thinks it's a little smarter than it is for a while. Like, it just kind of decides to be confusing for the sake of being confusing, and withholding information for the sake of withholding information. So to just really drag and bring home the fact that Alice is losing her mind, you know. But by the time you get to the payoff at the end, I don't know that all of it made sense. So that's why I look back on it and I'm like, I think it was just Olivia Wilde making choices to try to prove that she could direct this type of a film. I mean, her last film was Booksmart, which is not the same genre. So she's just challenging herself as a director. And I don't know that all of it worked. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I kind of get why people are kind of on this film, because even though I liked a lot of it, I think that there were a lot of mistakes, you know, a really underdeveloped supporting cast, and just some really just sort of like trippy scenes to make it seem like Alice is losing her mind that don't necessarily make sense, nor do they ever really make them make sense. So as far as the audio description goes, this is done by Laura Post, who uses her Disney voice here, which was really distracting to me, because she uses kind of the same voice that she uses for like Hocus Pocus. You know, it's very upbeat. It's very like she's narrating a kid's film, but this is very much not a kid's film. This is very dark. I love Laura Post. I think she's an amazing narrator, but I would not have hired her for this, especially if this was how she was going to narrate the film. Tonally, it just doesn't match at all. I think maybe Tansy Alexander would have been great on this, coming off of Stranger Things, kind of that vibe. That would have been a lot closer. You need to put people at a level of unease. It's kind of why William Michael Redmond works so well in horror films. There's something to be said for picking the right voice. If you pick somebody who's far too upbeat for a film that's a psychological thriller, it's just a clash. It's clashing the whole time. I don't know if Laura also wrote the script, because it only told me who narrated it. But whoever else at Deluxe wrote the script did a fantastic job. And what I'm saying about that is, there's what I was talking about earlier with the references to dancing. There's a lot of dancing in this and a lot of dance sequences. And for people who might have been on both sides, who could see and who now can't, or who have a strong dance background, I realize you could be blind and dance. They use a lot of actual dance terms and terminologies about certain formations. They reference a specific choreographer and that general look in terms of how the formation of the dancers is made, so that you get that reference. They also use terms like first position instead of trying to describe to you the layman's terms of like how the arms are being held, you know. So it is it's a film that actually took care, figuring that it would be cool for the dancers to know sort of exactly the terminology. Dance is not a necessary part of this film, which is what's so weird, is it's not a part of the film that needed to be there. It's just sort of used as an element. And that's sort of is why I said it earlier, because I'm not really sure I needed it there, but at the same time, it also was the strongest part about the audio description was the attention to detail in terms of being able to describe it in a way that somebody who had that kind of experience and knowledge would immediately know, oh, that I know what that position is. Oh, I get that specific move or that choreographer. I get these references, So I thought that was really smart. But Laura's just, this is just a little too upbeat for her. So, and I've heard her do serious work before, and she kind of tones down her voice, which is weird for me, because I think if she had just also toned it down, it might have worked. But she kind of did her upbeat narration that she does for all of her Disney films, which clashed with the tone of the film. I know that the film has this perky sort of Pleasantville vibe to it in the beginning, but it loses that pretty quickly and immediately starts inserting these unsettling moments and just further driving them home. The film is pretty clearly a psychological thriller for 75% of the film. So it's exactly what you think it is. The world starts crumbling pretty early on. So, but when she's still using the same upbeat Disney movie voice, it didn't really work for me. So, I think this is a little bit better than people have given it credit for, due in large part to the fact that Florence Pugh is amazing in this film. Powerhouse performance. Films that allow actresses to lose their mind on screen really show the strength of the actress, and Florence Pugh came to town and fought her battle on this one. Yeah, like I said, Harry Styles is better in this than he is in My Policeman. So, with all that knowledge, I'm going to give Don't Worry Darling a B-. So, the third act is the most interesting part about this film. So you got to stay through the film, even when you don't know what's going on, even when you're like, why are they dancing so damn much? You'll never get an answer to that question. But the third act, once the curtain is fully pulled back, instead of just revealing that there is something behind the curtain, but they won't tell you what it is. Once that curtain is pulled back and then you're like, oh, okay. Oh, this film is worth it now. I want to see how this plays out. So, it has a great third act. I know some people didn't feel that way about it. They felt kind of like I loved it. I think the third act is the strongest thing about the film. Getting there is basically just watching Florence Pugh is the reason to do it. But I think the film has a great ending. It has a great rise and climax and ending. So that's it. That's it for me. If you've stayed this long, it'd be nice if you could subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 by the end of the year. That'd be great. I also have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to theadmin.org and you can look up the just ungodly long resume of Laura Post. I don't even know how many Laura Post films I've reviewed this year. 50? I don't know. I feel like she's on everything. So the fact that I'm saying this one thing, I probably wouldn't have picked her for. She's amazing, and she's perfect. She's on everything. She's on a ton of Disney things. So, give her a look, and I'm sure you'll see a bunch of films that you've heard her on. So, that's it for me today. Remember, audio description is really important, so please advocate for it. And I'm going to go review something else, but I will see you guys on the other side.